Hi guys, my name's Nate. I go to the University of Brighton. I'm in my second year of study. I do fashion with business. It's really, really cool. Yeah, it's been tough, but it's been a good journey so far.
Do you mind introducing, I guess, a little bit about why we met and why you're here today doing this conversation?
Yeah, of course. So I met Anna through a event through my university, which was linked to like grief and everything. And I was like, as soon as the event was finished, I emailed Anna, being like, I'd really love to do a video, and I'd love to share my experience.
So important to just share stories and perspectives. It's not necessarily about having perfect advice or like a rule
Yeah,
book but just being like, you're not alone in this. Can you tell me a little bit about the people that you've lost?
yeah, of course. So, the most like I'd say the most like major losses that I've dealt with throughout my 2 decades worth of living, which is weird. I think it definitely my granddad for sure. He passed away in 2011. So it was massive for me because of like, I grew up in a household where it wasn't too stable in terms of families and stuff. My granddad was like a dad to me, so losing him at that point, especially, since I was like in and out of living with my mum and my dad and everything, it was major. 4 years ago, I lost my uncle. That was really rough because, I was going through sick form at the time. My uncle was awesome. He was one of the most chill dudes ever. Always had a lot of time for his family, had a lot of time for the people around him. And then obviously last year at uni, which I'll go into more in a while. Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
sharing. This is a difficult question because grief is notoriously difficult to define,
Mhm.
but how would you describe grief?
Good question. I would probably describe grief as an emotion so intense other people wouldn't understand it. You can't define it.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. It's really hard to explain the intensity of the feeling.
Yeah,
And it's kind of like you kind of just have to, if you know, you know, and some people are
yeah,
in that
yeah.
club. And it's great to have other people in that club, but I wouldn't wish it upon them necessarily.
No, no,
Yeah.
definitely not.
What do you feel is like specifically for university students might be the biggest challenge if you lose someone and then you're still studying?
Yeah, I think going back to, my flatmate last year, it was kind of like it impacted me straight away. I knew that it was going to take a grip on my mental health. It was going to take a grip on my day-to-day dealings, that I knew that it would plunge me into this dark depth of depression and raw emotion and, not being able to do things the way that I wanted to do it. And like, especially someone in first year who has dealt with a major loss, that's 3 years of their life having to graft again with their degree, trying to go into uni every day, trying to get like a job, trying to hang around with friends, like just basics like that. It definitely does take a toll on your mental health, just because the matter of the fact is it's something personal. This is an experience that is so personal to you that you can either let it affect you, which I think is a good way with dealing with grief, is that you should accept it, let it in your system, and then let it kind of like flash out over time, you know, and it's gonna sting for a long time, and you have to take as much time as possible to heal from it.
I guess there's a balance as well as like moving forward and letting yourself move forward and accepting what's happened and kind of like reshaping your life in a new
Yeah,
way, but also not just forgetting the person and dismissing that it ever
yeah,
happened. So you're kind of holding like the acknowledgement of it and the grief and the pain and the memories and also your new life and this ability to move forward. And they do both exist.
definitely, definitely. I definitely agree with that. Yeah,
And it's a gentler process than just like waking up one day and
yeah,
feeling normal and like being okay with it. Because you will have
yeah,
days when you wake up and you're like, oh, I feel like I can go to uni today, I can go and see my friends, like I feel all right. And then the next day you might feel a bit rubbish again. And actually that's okay. I do think there's a lot of pressure sometimes to just move forward and get on with it. And
Yeah,
actually, when you've lost a really significant person, it will be part that experience is then part of you, and that's
yeah,
fine.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah. And I think I sometimes talk about this, like, grief is something that stays with us forever, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be sad forever. It doesn't mean
no,
I wake up
no,
every single
no.
day and it's like the dominant narrative, but it's just like one thread in my
Yeah,
life. And then there are lots of other threads that are joyful and curious and playful and like, and I don't have to get rid of the grief in order to access those other parts of my life. And actually, that's kind of beautiful that we can do all of the things.
it's made me more like aware of how people feel, not judging of character, but being a lot more accepting towards people is probably the
Yeah.
biggest thing for me.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think that's a really, yeah, there's lots of difficult things that come from grief, but there are also those elements as well. What has helped you in your experience of grief?
Yeah, so being a student, especially, uni has been the biggest help slash distraction to not focus on such negative like thoughts and
Mm.
stuff like that. But in terms of other things, hanging around with friends has been the best thing for me in terms of grief. I remember I just wanted to neglect people. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I still don't like calling people like normally. Like calling people is just like so daunting. But it's like I remember specifically going back to that time, I didn't want to be around people. I really had to train my mind to be like, look, let's spread our wings a little bit. Let's go back to our friends and let's see what's going on. And then I remember as soon as, that weight lifted off my shoulders, I just broke down in tears and it was such a good feeling because it was just like, okay, I don't have to blame myself. I've got these amazing people around me who want me to do well. And even in times of difficulty, I can still deal with grief and still be so positive about it.
I think so many people will know that feeling of when you're like, oh, I kind of need help, but like, how do I even pick up my phone and like start? It just feels awkward, or you feel like
Yeah,
you're going to bring people down, or, all of these things that we tell ourselves. But actually, when you do it, which takes a bit of effort and a bit of courage,
yeah,
it changes everything. Actually, when you show people that you're struggling and like, or you ask for help, it's not creating a burden for them. It's actually just like deepening a connection. And it's also giving them
yeah,
permission to be like, and next time you feel like this, I'm here. Like I can have these
yeah,
difficult conversations. If we all just hold
yeah,
it in all the time, it kind of gives that message that it's not okay to talk about it. So one of us has to be the first one to be like, I'm a mess.
yeah,
Let's all be a
yeah,
mess
yeah.
together.
Yeah, 100%. It's really close to kind of like quitting uni just because of the experience. But I just thought, you know what, I've got the potential to do well and also carry this experience with me for the rest of my life. And it's been a year and a half almost since it happened. And I'm still at uni and I'm still here and I'm still kicking and I'm still doing the best that I can for myself.